What's going on, everyone? Joshua Jones here with GLHF MTG, bringing you a Brawl deck tech. So I'm figuring we might as well go ahead and give this thing a try, see what it is or whatever. So what I was thinking is last week I brought you a Commander deck tech on a Dominaria Legend Aerial Knight of Windgrace. So might as well just run the Brawl deck out there for you and see if you like it or not. So let me know in the comments below if you want to continue to see Dominaria Legend Commanders followed up by the following week, giving you the Brawl version of the deck. So we have Aerial Knight of Windgrace, 2 white black for a 4/4 Human Knight Vigilance, 2 and a white tap, create a 2/2 Knight token with Vigilance. Black tap X untap Knights you control, destroy target creature with power X or less. So for Brawl wise, it's a singleton format. Kind of basically the way I kind of look at it is like a singleton version of standard, because they have to be all standard legal cards. So this deck is going to be different than the Commander deck from last week. We'll start it out with the creature base. So we have our first Knights and Dauntless Bodyguard, which is a 2/1 for 1. Choose a creature when it comes in. Sack that creature gets indestructible. Metallic Mimic, which is an honorary Knight, 2/1 for 2. And when it comes in, you name Knight. And then every time a creature ETBs with the Knight type, it gets a +1/+1 counter. Legion Lieutenant. So this is actually a Vampire Knight. A good segue to talk about how there are a lot of standard Knights right now that are also vampires, so there's some vampire synergy. This gives other vampires you control +1/+1, so not other Knights, but like I said, like about 50% of the Knights or so happen to be vampires, just because of the way Ixalan worked out. Benalla Shonagard is 1 and a white for a 2/2, so just a bear, and it gets +1/+0 for each other legendary you control. We're not running like a excess number of legendaries or anything, but I wanted to have a large amount of 2-mana Knights, so that hopefully when you get to turn 4, you can activate activate the removal ability if you want, or start getting the commander running. So we're running Famished Paladin, which is a 3/3 for 2. But it doesn't untap during your untap step. Every time you gain life, untap. So we do have some ways to gain life in the deck, primarily with the 1/1 vampire lifelinker dudes that all these vampire knights are producing. And you see here, this whole slide is all vampires in addition to being knights. So Oathsworn, you can play out of the graveyard if you gain life. It comes in tapped, and it's a 2/2 for 2. So again, these are kind of like counterintuitive with the commander's ability to tap to do the things that the commander wants to do, but they are 2-mana Knights that just, I didn't want to pass up on. Paladin of Atonement lets us gain a little bit of life. When it dies, you gain life equals to its toughness, and then at the beginning of each upkeep, if an opponent lost life, then you put counters on it, and then Blood Craze can kind of flash in to kind of mix some things up, because when it ATBs with the 1/1 counter on it for each creature that died this turn. So there you go. Continue with the first Knights. We have Forerunner of the Legion, which lets you search for a vampire card. And like I said, we have plenty of vampires that are Knights in the deck. And then also, whenever another vampire enters, target creature gets +1/+1. So that's any creature. It doesn't have to necessarily be a vampire. Can be a Knight or whatever you want. Knight of Grace and Knight of Malice, just solid bears with upside. Voracious Vampire, because the menace is real, and to get the boost and menace just for a turn even is good enough to make the cut. Then we have our Midnights. So we have Danitha, which we're not running like Ores and Equipments, but just a 2/2 First Strike Vigilance lifelink for 3 mana was worth it. And then Sanctum Seeker, because it's a little bit of card draw whenever a vampire you control attacks. Not the card draw one. I'm thinking of Twilight Prophet here in a minute. But each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. And then our actual commander on 4. And then Paladin of the Bloodstain, which is a 3/2, and it gets you a 1/1 vampire token with lifelink. So good enough. Then we continue with the Knights with the Linda, which is a Knight that gets you the 1/1 lifelingers. And then Josu Vest, which you can't pass up that value. Each of those 2/2 8 Knights that come in when it's kicked are Knights, in addition to being zombies. Champion of Dusk, which is the one that lets you draw cards and lose life equal to vampires you control, and then Bona. So you see, I know I mentioned it several times, but you could see how like this is Knight and Vampire Tribal like kind of like at the same time. Here we have our non-knights, so we have Ravenous Chupacabra and Noxious Gearhulk for some removal in our creature suite. Tetzamok, same thing here. Like you could just keep threatening, and then you get a 6/6 death touch and kind of wipe the board out. Twilight Prophet for card draw once we get to Extend, and then of course our opponents are going to lose life. Creature removal, we'll run a Fatal Push, Seal Away, Cast Down, and Vraska's Contempt. Vraska can also hit the Planeswalkers, of course, and give you a little bit of extra life gain, and then Seal Away, Cast Down, and Fatal Push are just solid removal options. For permanents and sweepers, I went ahead and chose to run Ixalan's Binding, even though like the ability for multiple spells, or they can't cast that spell anymore, it's not going to be relevant because it's a singleton format. But still, just to be able to get an online permanent, I figured it was good to run Cast Out and Ixalan's both Settle and Fumigate for sweepers. Radiant Destiny and Vanquisher's Banner for a little team boost, even though most of our teams are already going to have Vigilance anyways. Still worth it to play. Running a butt ton of creatures in this deck, so Vanquisher's Banner is just great there, and the boost. Anointed Procession, so for when we do make those 2/2 Vigilance with our commander, we're going to get even more, twice that many instead. And then, of course, with our 1/1 life linkers that some of our cards are pooping out, we can get an extra one there. Profane Possession, just more for, like, just because I wanted to play it. But, 5 mana to get rid of 3 different things. 5 mana, 5 mana, 5 mana. It's kind of expensive, but it's good to have that utility. And then once it flips over, just to be able to have the access to those cards that you exiled is too good to pass up. For lands, we're running dual lands, so we're running these 4 lands that tap for both of our colors, white and black. Then we're running Scavenger Ground, Arch, Shefet Dunes, and Field of Ruin for our utility lands, just to be able to deal with graveyards, deal with other lands, boost the team, and draw cards later on. And then we're running basic lands, 8 swamps and 7 plains, and then Evolving Wilds to round up the mana base. So if you want to play Brawl, it seems like it could be cool. One note is that this deck is completely standard legal, so if you just slip Ariel into the actual deck itself instead of the command zone when you're playing Brawl, if you put it into the deck, you have a 60-card legal standard deck with this deck. So you can play standard on F&M Knights. Of course, you got to remember with the singleton, it's not going to be as consistent as having like a regular tuned-up standard deck with 4 ofs and things like that, but it's still going to be usable, and you might be able to win some packs. So if you want to play standard, I would play like the decks that run more consistently, because you can use multiple spells. But in the event, say you go for commander, and like your commander buddies didn't show up or whatever, and everybody's playing standard F&M, and they're not wanting to play Brawl, at least you have that option to make your Brawl deck a standard deck. And then another thing I would suggest too is to look at, so this deck runs like 24 creatures, 12 different spells, and then 24 lands. And what you could do is, if you add 40 cards, you're going to have a commander legal deck. So if you wanted to use this Brawl deck and then use, what I would do is I'd run like somewhere around, so we have 24 lands, I would run somewhere around 12 to 14 lands, which was going to put you at 36 to 38 lands. So like, even if, like, let's just make it simple. Oh, man, I wish I would have thought about this before I started recording. But so just to make it simpler, like if you ran like 12 lands, right, that would put you at 72 cards, and then you had 28 other spells that you wanted, like between ramp, card draw, removal, other knights that aren't in standard, and flavor cards that aren't standard. You could have those cards. Like you could have the Aerial Knight of Grace commander deck and only play 40 minus 12 lands, so 28 cards that are not in standard but fit the theme of the deck, 12 lands that are just on the side, and then have that 40 cards set aside. I'm kind of rambling on now. You get my point. All right, this deck's 1098425 on mtggoldfish.com, and you can pick it up for about $100. So it's actually cheaper if you get it in one package at 98.42 when I ran the cart. So right at $100, and you're looking at a standard legal singleton a deck for yourself, a brawl deck for yourself to transition into commander, and then you're only round about 12 to 14 lands and about 36 other spells away from a full-on deck. 26 spells I'm going on. 26 spells away from like having a full-on commander deck. Anyways, that's it. I'll stop rambling. I hope you enjoyed the video. So if you want to check out my buddy John Hale on Twitch, he's at Druin Gray. He made the symbol, GLHF symbol that we use here. I use the MTG Goldfish. I love it. Like, MTG Goldfish is my place. It's my jam. TCG Player for Prices. EDH Rec has a Brawl version to it. So if you're familiar with EDH Rec, they have a Brawl. Then go check EDH Rec out. Scryfall too, if you're looking for some other cards. So well, I know when I went in initially to make this deck list, they didn't have Knight of Malice or Knight of Grace on the Brawl suggestion lists, like when I was looking for Knight, and I had to resort to Scryfall to like make sure that I wasn't missing out on any. Anyways, Magic the Gathering is a product of Wizards of the Coast. You can find them at magic.wizards.com, and if you want to email me at the channel, just hit me up at fnamtg@gmail.com, or just leave a comment below. And like, share, subscribe, hit the bell. So, all right, yeah, that's gonna do it for this week. It's so good to see you. Try Brawl out. Why not? Try Commander out if you want. Play this. Play all your Brawl decks. In standard. Just if you added in any standard illegal cards, just make sure you take them out first or whatever. Smuggler's Copter still getting the hate. I'm Josh. See you later.